Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Levi Clay here, and I'm back again for another live transcription stream. This one should be fun. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, Levi, hang on a minute, you do a transcription stream on the last Sunday of a given month. And I'm just looking at last Saturday. I'm just looking at we're really early this month, aren't we? I'm actually going to, hopefully, don't hold me to this one yet. I'm hoping to shift up my output, if you like, when it comes to these transcription streams. I'm thinking of doing 2 live streams a month because ultimately I really enjoy transcription. Obviously, it's what I do for a living, and I think that it would enable me to get round to doing lots more things for YouTube, things that aren't jobs for clients, that maybe venture into directions that I can't devote too much time to if I'm just doing 1 stream a month. So it means that I can get more transcriptions up for my wonderful supporters over on Patreon. So yeah, the plan is, the camera's a little bit off center, isn't it? That way, here we go. The plan is to do twice as many streams a month, so you guys can keep learning and I can keep bringing you cool content. So yeah, if you would like to get the transcriptions that I finish here today and all that good stuff, you can head on over to my Patreon page. Link is in the description. And I'm now going to post it in the comments because why not? Yes, I will be uploading this there. Now, the subject today is Malmsteen. I have never actually done a Malmsteen transcription as part of my my live transcription streams. I've never featured Malmsteen as an artist on my Patreon page yet. He's never been someone I focused on, and that's a travesty. That's awful. I should absolutely have done some Malmsteen by now, because he's an iconic guitar player. The reason this has come about is one of my friends on Facebook recently posted this video and said something along the lines of, I don't care what anybody says. I love when Malmsteen plays the blues. And some gatekeeping asshole, we don't need to name names here, Ewan. Some gatekeeping asshole came along and said this isn't blues, and that's fine. You can have an opinion like that, but I just had to watch and see what was being said, and the arrogance that came with this. Like, trust me, I know blues, and this just isn't blues. Stop being a gatekeeping douchebag. Let's really think about this, right? Like, I'm going to conclude before we even look at what Malmsteen's doing here. Yes, of course Malmsteen can play the blues, right? Because the blues is a style of music, and it's not up to us to decide who is or isn't allowed to be in the club. Okay, we can all be in the club. You can listen to Malmsteen and say he plays too many notes, and I'll say, okay, cool, fine, I'll give you that. But when it comes to note choice on things like this, he's absolutely playing blues, and he's doing it rather authentically. Within reason. He's playing Clapton vocabulary in this. He's playing, he's playing Gary Moore vocabulary. He's playing a lot of stuff that that guys used to hear playing like this. Maybe not to this speed, but just in terms of note choice, it's absolutely blues vocabulary, and he's doing it over a 12-bar blues chord progression. So how can this be anything but blues? Why is it we can listen to someone like Eric Clapton playing the Sunshine of Your Love solo with Cream and say this is blues, even though it's not a 12-bar blues progression? But you can have someone like Malmsteen playing the same notes, the same ideas, over an actual blues, and somehow it's not blues. And it really comes down to, like I said, I hate it so much, that gatekeeper mentality of like, I get to decide who's allowed to come into our coveted club because I put on blues gigs. You're an asshole. You're just an asshole, right? You don't get to decide what blues is. Blues is a wide genre of music that dates back over 100 years, yeah? And to say Malmsteen isn't playing blues when we look at this is akin to saying, you sound like the kind of idiots that would say things like, oh, this Elmore James chap, yeah, that's not actually, he's not playing blues there. Real blues musicians don't use electricity. They don't use electric instruments. They play with acoustic instruments. You sound like an idiot, saying, oh, well, Peter Green, he's not playing the blues because he's white. Like, you sound dumb. Oh, Jimi Hendrix, yeah, that's not blues. Music adapts, music evolves, and blues is a wonderfully wide-reaching genre of music. I love the blues. It's my primary driving force but not really the kind of more traditional way that people think of when they think of the blues. So, Clapton isn't an influence of mine. Peter Green isn't an influence of mine. Generally speaking, blues guitar players aren't really influences of mine. But I'm a real big fan of, and especially now I'm just relentlessly listening to jazz organ players. And jazz organists love playing on a blues. They love just blues records, just playing whole albums of blues. And yeah, I'm having a great time with it, listening to Joey DeFrancesco's Re-Boppin' album a lot at the moment. And it's just full of great blues tunes, really nice blues tunes. Where they're just, jamming over a 12 bar. And obviously it sounds completely different from how someone like Muddy Waters would sound if Muddy Waters was playing the blues, or Howlin' Wolf, or Freddie King. Yeah, it's a different sound, but it's still the blues nonetheless, right? It comes from that place. And we can't be these people that are like, well, you didn't experience slavery, so you can't play the blues. You don't know what it means to have the blues. There's more to it than that. There's so much more to it than that, because in reality, nobody living now really, well, I'll walk that back. I guess there are places in the world where slavery is still a thing, but you know what I'm getting at. We don't have that same level of understanding of what it was to go through the things that the original blues musicians had lived, of course, but that doesn't mean that we can't grow and adapt and do stuff with the music. If you play blues vocabulary and you do it in a blues setting, you're playing blues. It just really is as simple as that. You are playing blues. But really, of course, what I'm going to deal with here, being a transcriber, one who takes everything very seriously, is one of the comments that really got me was his note choice he's dreadful. He's not playing the right notes over the chords. And I'm sorry, you might have mud in your fucking ears, but actually, on the clip that we're going to look at, Malmsteen's note choice is pretty damn authentic, more so than the average rock player when they play over a blues. He's not just slamming minor pentatonic over the whole chord progression, which is one of the things that I guess many of the people that you would say, well, that's blues, do actually do. So, we are going to take a look at this. It's going to be great fun. There's some really cool vocabulary in this, and I hope that it gives people a little bit more respect for guys like Malmsteen. But anybody, to say, yeah, well, he might be playing the right notes and he might be playing it over a 12-bar blues, but there's a reason, which I can't put into words, that it isn't blues. He's not playing it well enough, so it's not blues. What message is that? What message are we sending out to people that want to learn to play the blues? I have students that come in for lessons with me, and they've been playing the guitar for a year, and we work on blues ideas, and they don't sound good yet when they're playing the blues. Does that mean that they're not playing blues? Is there a point where you can suddenly play to an acceptable level where these motherfucking purists will accept you as part of the club and then suddenly you're playing blues? Isn't it ironic? Isn't it ironic that the guardians of the purity of the blues are the actual oppressors now? These are the people that really we should be writing blues music about. Motherfuckers like that give me the blues. So, yeah. Let me read some comments, then we'll get on with the transcription. So David Yates saw Malmsteen the Marquee Club in London in 85. His playing was incredible. It is splittingly loud, yeah, of course. Comment on the stream. Intro Sleeping Dogs Lie is awesome. Yep. I am trying to see... Well, Matthias, wrong. But we'll see that. Still got time for transcribing besides all the Dark Souls Platinum grind. I'm going to be grinding more of that Dark Souls Platinum later, which is going to be cool. Come to the blues. Good luck making me reconsider being a gatekeeper metal elitist. Don't do it, man. Don't do it. It just makes you the worst person. Do I think the perfect pitch is overrated? Well, I don't have perfect pitch, so I can't really comment. But I make a living as a transcriber, so, it's certainly not necessary. Yeah. You know what, guys? The comment on Malmsteen's Blue Lightning, I will give you that, right? Absolutely dire. But there is a difference, isn't there, between somebody does something badly and somebody isn't doing the thing. Malmsteen's blues record, not a good blues record, right? But was still a blues record. We can't just say, oh, I don't like it, therefore it's not the genre. Because if you release a bad rock record or a bad metal record, and everybody agrees, oh, this is just bad, does it cease being the thing? Does it see? It's like, well, we tried to make a metal record, but people hate it so much that it's not actually metal. So we've fallen through the cracks of being metal, and now we're this vague thing that nobody can possibly put a label on because we've not passed any given purity test to be that thing. Oh, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. So there you go, Ewan. Just for you, buddy. It's not blues. Trust me. General rule of thumb in life, guys. Never trust anybody that went to AMS. That's my advice for you. Right, so, and of course, you know, put your money where your mouth is, and actually make some content. So, I'm sure many of you have seen this clip, and actually I've been told that this has been transcribed. Very rarely do I like to actually transcribe something that's already been transcribed, but I didn't go looking for the transcription of this. I went with this because, because this was the video in question that was posted on socials. So let's take a listen to it. I'm going to mark the file out. And heads up for you guys on this one. Let me give you a link for this. In the comments section right now, I am just going to post a link to Transcribe, the software. That's the software I'm using up in the top left here. This is Transcribe. I've loaded the video and the audio in Transcribe. I'm using Guitar Pro on the right. I am going to just hit play on this, and I'm going to start marking out the bars. Super easy to do, right? I mean, he's going to do an unaccompanied intro. Oh, no. Oh, sorry. I'm going to give him that lick. That was totally inappropriate. Okay, cool. So obviously the first thing we're going to say is Malmsteen plays in E flat, right? So this won't be in tune with standard tune guitar. So I'm just going to fix that. Pick the key. So, yeah, if we pitch shift the recording up a semitone, then we'll be treating the guitar as though it's in E. That just makes our life a little bit easier, right? Oh, it's super over the top. Yeah, it's unbelievably over the top. But I'm sorry, there's just no arguing. You know, you can tell everybody that you're a big deal and you know blues. But this lick right here... That's a classic blues lick. Classic blues lick. You hear Clapton play that all the time. So we'll do the free time intro. Free time intro is... where are we? Do I want a guitar for this? Because obviously the struggle with something like this is usually when I'm doing a transcription using video to save me from using my guitar. We've got a slightly better shot than this. This is it's 240p quality. Like I can't see it. Yeah. I mean, I'm not crazy about that. Like. Yeah. Just I love Malmsteen's vibrato. I think we'll all agree Malmsteen has great vibrato. We'll write this as fucking hell. Be playing that there. I'm not crazy on that kind of, we're gonna take that bend like super out of tune and then just gradually make it in tune. But we'll accept it. Love that lick. I hate having to do a free time thing like this because I want my phrases to start on bars, and it's just like obviously isn't starting on a bar, starting on a bar line, unless I make this like I guess we make it bar 5/4, but I don't want to do that. I love that phrase. I play that type of phrase all the time. Apparently I don't. Where are we? How do I want to feel this? I mean, it's really that, isn't it? So, all right, let's get on with it. So, the ba-ba-do, ba-ba-do, ba-da-da-da-bo, ba-ba-do. And we could put like scale names over this if we want. Landed on the 6. Now for something like this, it's like, it's just never going to look tidy. And it's very Gilbert. Yeah, I'll give him that. Very, 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 I'm going to jump in on a comment in a second. Very, very, very messy to write stuff like this out. Just nature of the beast. It sounds like he's got a small bag of actual blues vocabulary. He was just trying to fill all the empty space. I mean, let's be fair. B.B. King had a very small bag of blues vocabulary. You don't need a big bag of blues vocabulary to play the blues, right? Okay, so I'm feeling pulse here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so I'm just doing this to help me really nail this. Ba 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 ba, baseline, right? Okay, so we do want this to be on a bar, so I'll come back and we'll tidy that up in a second. That's an unorthodox lick. just so... I hate it. Just floating all over the bar and it's like, ah. This is honestly embarrassing that I pride myself, like on my transcriptions, I want them to always look really nice on the page, and I don't want to spend half an hour making this look semi-acceptable. I'd rather just progress on with the transcription. So I'm feeling like triplet framework. I thought it was a blues in E, but what is going on here? Could hit my keyboard really, couldn't I? Okay, right, fine, whatever. Now we've got a pulse. I probably should have just started with the pulse, right? So we're going to go... Do I want to feel this as... No, I'm still going to feel this as 4/4, rather than being a... No, realistically, we have to write this in 12 because the drums are playing with a 12/8 feel, right? If you listen to the cymbal... So it's definitely a 12/8 time feel for this. So, and when I do 12/8, you're really thinking, well, obviously 4 groupings of 3. So you have to shift out of your mind of a beat being a quarter note. It's a dotted quarter note. So you get 3 eighth notes in there. So I would write this. Is that 12? There's never getting this MIDI to sound acceptable. So when I look at this, this is easy to read now because I'm understanding and processing that this is beat 1, this is beat 2. What is he? Ba-da. Ba-ba-ba-ba. Fuck's sake. Does he play that up? He actually does jump up for that. It's interesting. Vibrato so wide you can drive a truck through it. Same phrase. I would probably, for the sake of, yeah, that you would just write as is. But for this, he shifts up on the finger, so I put shift slides in here. It's not a legato slide. He's not picking this note and sliding to this note. He's picking this note and picking this note, but he's doing it on the same finger. So I do find that it helps with students working things out and, you know, understanding what's going on. So interesting comment here from Ciego Guitarist. Interesting hearing it slowed down. Oh, are you talking about the vibrato? Because when we listen to vibrato aside, if we just listen to this played at 70% speed, pretty, you know, standard fare for a blues vocabulary. He's hitting the chord change. So, we going there? So, I want my guitar, or a guitar. Understand what he's doing here. Yep. So I'm getting caught up in the positioning now. So. I don't want to take this. Triplets. Sorry guys, I'm gonna have to use a guitar for this. It's just I can't see what he's doing, so I just yeah. So we've got yeah, so in fact, just to give you a better insight into what's going on here, I am actually plugged in, so we'll use the plugged in. Though I've just updated my Kemper, and now suddenly it takes like 2 minutes to boot up. Sorry, my face is in the way. Huh. Come on, Kemper! I really can't. I don't know why this has started doing this, but it's just unreasonable. Not really the guitar for this. Get the idea. So, right, we should be in better position now. So. So we're going to go. Oh, no one should have to write this out. That's a major third vibrato there. Just like immense. The Kemper used to boot in 5 to 10 seconds, and then for some reason I update it, and now suddenly it's like slow as a bag of shit. Like, good to see you, Ivor. Now this is a cool phrase, right? So we go. just know, right? No thinking about this. This is us going back to our 1 chord, right? We're going to go from our A. Sorry, if I put the so blues in A type vibe, right? So we've got this all these licks he's playing here around this pentatonic shape 5 in this bar, minor pentatonic shape 5. These kind of there's all minor pentatonic, and then we get that whole major third vibrato. Then we get this. And that's that. If you're thinking minor pentatonic for this, you're playing the 4th, the flat 3rd, up to the 4th, and then we're releasing that bend down to that 3rd of the A chord. This isn't my sound either. So yeah, we're going this. And then into here, we are going to release this by a semitone. I'm going to sit on that C sharp, 3rd of the chord. And this was the thing, growing up. I was just missing this. In fact, let me switch on my other camera. Headphones help. I'll get us there. Oh, gotta put it in focus, that helps. There, somewhere. So, growing up, this was something that was just lost on me. The logic was, if we're playing the blues, you play the blues scale. And that gets you so far, right? But it was I always bring up Clapton. It was learning this lick that Clapton plays. I've got to change this tone. I hate it so much. I don't know. I can't tell you who that tone's for. I just had to do some ghost recording for someone, and that was the tone. So can't get on board with that. Yeah, so learning this Clapton lick. I could play my minor pentatonic stuff. But then understanding and seeing that lick. And of course learning B.B. King. That's not B.B. King at all. I hate this guitar. It's got a trem on it which just throws all of my bending out. Point is, that lick made me start to see that, okay, well, major third is important. I'm going to switch this guitar, I just can't play it. Let's play something that stays in tune. beautiful 2,000, 3,000 pound guitar that doesn't stay in tune. So let's go over to the old faithful. There we go. Much better. It sounds like a Strat, and you can't do better than that, right? So all of those. Change my pick to my actual picks that I use. All those sorts of things. That major third just became really, really prominent, and that was always the game changer. So for me, anytime I hear somebody who can express that when they're playing over a blues, and they don't just have to resort to, let's get a bit more drive. Hitting minor over everything, fine, but I want to hear that major third. Okay, so and Malmsteen's going to really nail that on this. He's going to potentially overplay. Oh, root helps. So we want those major thirds. Apparently I'm having one of those days where I can't play the blues. So if we go back to some of these licks, that's what we're really looking for on this, and that's what we're looking to get to improve our ear for stuff like this. We don't want to just hammer one sound over everything. So bring it on to that third. Boom. I do want the guitar for this. Plugging it in helps. Fucking nightmare, man. So we know he's thinking A. Yep, nice. So we're going to go interesting note choice there, right? So he's hitting the sixth. Minor major third. Fuck's sake. That vibrato! You just can't, I mean you can, but the note that he plays is the flat third of the chord, right? That's the note he plays. But of course his vibrato is so wide. We're going from the third all the way up to the fifth. Which is just too much, right? I'm gonna notate this on my transcription. We're gonna put that in, and here we're gonna put wide enough to drive truck through. because that's important. We should know that, right? So we're on the one chord here, right? Yeah. So if we put that on and we do this, we're playing over the one chord here. So. We're definitely over our one chord, our A here, and that lick. This is, I think, the secret, right? So when we play. That, in my mind, when I'm categorizing this sort of thing, I know that major pentatonic versus minor pentatonic is really understanding the cigarette on there, so really understanding the difference between those two scales. You don't want to, and here's my warning for you guys, when you're learning this stuff, you don't want to be that guy that when it comes to playing major pentatonic, they just take the thing they know, so minor pentatonic, and just move it down 3 frets, right? You can do that, but when I do that, I play like it's F sharp minor pentatonic. A minor. If I do that and then just think this as being A major, right? That's the things I'm likely to play. I don't want to do that. I want to understand the difference between these two things in terms of sound. So minor pentatonic, there's a couple of key notes in there that really sound like the minor pentatonic. That would be the flat third and that flat 7. Those two notes are so important to the sound of that chord. In fact, slam the keyboard on. I could be more prepared than this, couldn't I? I didn't know I was going to do this, but I'm having fun, so... So if I play, turn that down, turn that. Yeah, so if I put down like an A7 chord, let's play. So if I've got that sound, knowing what notes are really important in the minor pentatonic would be that flat third. Obviously the root is going to be our go-to back sound, right? So that's our minor pentatonic sound. The flat 7's also really important in that too. I'm going to boost so I can do some Derek Trucksy stuff. Too much. So that's our flat 7. Whereas when you play the major pentatonic scale, it has the 6th in there. But that's gain. Has the 6th in there. And it has the major 2nd. Still too much gain. So if I play a line like that, I'm using a bit of everything, right? Major 2nd, flat 3rd, 6, because the flat 7's a bit dark. I want the 6. We've got the minor pentatonic, so the 4th, flat 3 to 3. Now the lick Malmsteen plays here is... So what is it? Well, it's a great lick, right? We're... Take that cable off, strap off. We are jumping up to the 6th of the chord, F sharp. So that's the 6th of the chord, F sharp, bending up a semitone to the flat 7. Coming down, 5th of the chord, 4, flat 3 to 3. Now, if you listen to a lot of blues rock guitarists, they won't hit those sorts of things over a blues. They're going to hit just minor pentatonic, which has a sound. We want... some of that major in there. Because you can always fall back on. Always hit those minor pentatonic sounds. For me, the thing that, and I'm never going to be that guy where I'm like, this is what makes something blues and this is what stops something from being blues. We can only talk about the things we like, right? I listen to significantly more jazz blues, like straight up blues where there's no guitar, right? And when you listen to a horn player playing over a blues, you hear not different I guess it is different vocabulary. It just comes from a different place, right? When you listen to a jazz organist play over a blues, the vocabulary comes from a different place. I go more for those tight sounds of the chord when I'm playing over things, but you have to appreciate that it's really just a case of what's for you and what's not for you. To me, when Malmsteen's playing a blues like this, you used to hear a lot of stuff like this from Gary Moore, right? Gary Moore would play a lot of really fast stuff over a blues, and it's never appropriate to say that's not blues just because you're playing too fast. Because he's just, Gary Moore felt everything he played. He was passionate about what he was playing. Malmsteen's passionate about what he's playing. It just might not be for you. It's not for me. It's not how I choose to play a blues. I don't have the speed to play like that anymore. In fact, like, this is too electric for me. I want to pick up my hollow body to play over a thing like this, right? So yeah, as long as your ear can hear the difference between these two sounds. And at no point have I said Mixolydian, because we're not thinking modally here. It's absolutely not. Yeah, so we're looking for sounds, and you should be able to hear the difference between those two things, major versus minor. You should be able to pick up your guitar and, without really thinking about it, play something that sounds major. And play something that sounds minor. That's back to my major. Minor. Major. And we're going to hear that from Malmsteen. The more you go through this, he annoyingly annoyingly, because it is annoying. He's got that. He can do that, and I think that for coming from the perspective of someone who's been teaching now for almost 15 years. I've been teaching for now. And I've written, I've released blues DVDs and blues educational products. I have, written for the biggest magazines. I've done it all for a long time. What comes with that is students, right? Students, constantly students. I've got a nice studio here that I've built so students can come to it, and I can teach on Skype like this. And I have seen people from all walks of life wanting to play the blues and wanting to be more serious about the blues. And that right there is always the sticking point, right? Being able to blend those two sounds, to not think of it as, I'm going to play this scale, and then I'm going to play this scale, and then I'm going to do this, and then we're going to do that, but really understanding the sound of those two things. It doesn't matter. Like I have guys that come to me who their idol as blues guitar players is someone like Billy Gibbons. Billy's a great player. Love Billy's playing. But when they play, I'm like, but it really just sounds like you're noodling with the minor pentatonic scale. And they're like, well, yeah, I kind of am. Breaking through that is the hardest thing to do. Like really, really hard, a hard thing to do, because you have to tune your ear into it and you have to really understand it. E major versus E Phrygian dominant to retrain my brain. That's kind of a fun one. Should we do that for a second? Let's do that. Whoa. Just take the strap off at this point. Let's rock out and play. Let's play this. So being able to E major. Fucking unplug my guitar again. I'm gonna fire myself. Okay. So we should be able to play E major. And then thinking E Phrygian dominant. I shouldn't be ending on. To E major. And of course, this is a tricky one, right? Like, I'm not playing right now, I'm not playing over a 12-bar blues progression, but I think that it would be fair to say I'm playing like a blues player. Jazz blues, sure, but when you hear all those... I'm playing the sound of my chord, and then when I switch to that Phrygian dominant vibe, it's a little bit harder to phrase that and make it sound like blues, because it's traditionally not a sound you hear on blues, right? That's more like a chord change thing. You're gonna... You're gonna hear that when you go to the 4 chord, go to the A. So yeah, that's actually, I'll be honest, not something that I'd actually practiced before. Going between Phrygian dominant and then just plain major or dominant 7 vocabulary, and hearing the difference between those. And of course, like you guys, anyone that's watched my educational stuff will know that that's how I'm hearing the difference between these two things. When you say to me dominant 7, I'm hearing or I'm thinking this. Right, so this is the harmonic information. It's a dominant 13 chord sound. Whereas when you say Phrygian dominant to me, I'm hearing flat 13, flat 9. I'm hearing this. So I know that the flat 13 is important. The flat 9. And because I know that, and I know if I'm playing an E here, here's my flat 2, flat 7, flat 6, major 3rd. much. That's fun exercise. Totally besides the point, but I did it again. Just unplugged the guitar, didn't I? So now we go back to Malmsteen. What are we getting here? So we hear this note. So this is a bad note. I think he's clearly going for the E natural there, which would make sense. That's a cool lick though. Let's just quantize this. We're just going to make a tuplet. Hate these rhythms. I almost want to hide them so you can't see the rhythm. But in theory, right? In theory, here, there's cool licks to be had from this. And when I throw these out to you as suggestions, I don't want you to think that what I'm saying here is these are Malmsteen licks, because they're not. And I think that's kind of the point. Malmsteen has licks, you know, when he's playing rock and metal, he has licks that are his, and when you play them, it sounds like you're playing Malmsteen licks. But if you look at that lick, this is the fifth and the third of the A chord, and then we're going. And if just rather than from a let's not worry so much about the rhythm. Rhythm's not important at this stage. Just being able to understand and hear and see the difference between all these sounds. So we're on an A chord and we hit. Okay, and then we've got minor pentatonic. Well, it's like a sus sound, but and then we get this. Oh, sorry. That's a great lick. Honestly, if I wish I had my loop pedal set up, but unfortunately I don't. So let's play. We're on an A chord, aren't we? Yeah, of course we are. So let's play. What am I doing? Wrong chord. Not the position for this. Yeah. So starts with major into minor. Hits the major third, which is cool. And that ending a blues phrase on a flat 7, to my ears, really wants to then transition to the 4 chord. But yeah. That's a blues lick. Like, there's just no avoiding it. when I'm learning a phrase like this, or if I'm trying to get my head around something like this, I'm going to stop the keyboard at that point. I'm trying to get my head around a phrase like this, so it can be something that I can actually use in my day-to-day playing. I want to take something like that. Take the thing that's unique about it, or the thing that's new to you would probably be the best way of putting it, right? If you're used to playing minor pentatonic and you're just... You just used to slamming minor pentatonic over things. How is this different from what you would normally play? And the first thing I would point out, and I see this with a lot of my students, treating pentatonic scales as linear things, right? Where you go, if we play this note, we either go to the next note in the scale or the next note underneath it. So you end up with sequences, like, right? And that's where rock comes from, a lot of that rock vocabulary comes from. But when you look at great blues phrases, you do see a lot of this. We can't... Everything that is played can be described, yeah? So if I play... here's a cliche for you. If I play that, you're going to say, it's a bluegrass lick, right? The country bluegrass lick. Because it just is. If I play... You just go, country lick. You're going to go country licks, right? Because they sound like country licks. Meanwhile, if I suddenly go, you're going to go rock lick. When we take this lick, I can immediately start playing that, and it's a blues lick, yeah? You can't play that over a metal song and it sound like a metal lick. It sounds like a blues lick. And here's the scary thing, right? So this is a really authentic sounding lick when I'm playing like that, right? Sounds like a blues phrase. We're taking this from a fucking Yngwie Malmsteen recording. A Malmsteen recording. And if there's one thing that you take away from this stream tonight, it's that there is a blues lick. And you got it from Malmsteen, and that's scary. Now, it doesn't mean that Malmsteen is a great innovator of blues, because the whole argument I've been making with this is he's not playing anything that's his here. He's just playing cliches, right? He's playing all the cliches. But here's the thing, I can swear this to you, I promise you this: you don't accidentally do this. You don't accidentally do this. Many of you that are watching this now are probably teachers. Some of you students of music that have been studying for years and years. You have enough experience. None of you are new to music, right? So you all know what it's like to see someone try and improvise with a scale, right? So you bring someone in for their first lesson with you, and you say, okay, well, I want you to solo over this using minor pentatonic, and you show them a minor pentatonic, wherever it happens to be, and they start playing. Thing they always do is this, because they get to the end and they're like, oh yeah, I can bend, can't I? And they always bend the root, and it sounds terrible. Knowing a scale does not make music, yeah? So if I teach you Phrygian dominant, doesn't mean that you can immediately play music with it. Phrases. Sounds more like I'm playing music now, because I'm playing melodic phrases that I understand. had to learn to do stuff like that. And it's the same with this, right? So you don't learn the pentatonic scale and then just by happen chance just magically play that's somebody that has learned blues vocabulary and done it respectfully. Well, okay, respectfully is probably not the right way to put it, but it's done it seriously, you know, has actually learnt the vocabulary. So I don't want to spend too much time on this, guys, because I've already been streaming for an hour, so I'm just going to hit play and look for anything else that's just going to jump out to me as being like a really nice example of a great blues lick. So we're going to be, this is where we hit our E chord, right? And what does he play? That's a great phrase, right? E chord hits, we play. Well, what is that? We're bending up the G to G sharp, so we're getting this double stop. It's playing a chord, it's playing a double stop. He's playing the third and the fifth of the chord. He's playing an E chord, an E triad. Blues phrase, minor pentatonic. Let's keep going. I love that phrase. Now, we'll get to the D. I can't do... I've got 11s. Trying not to break my strings. The bend is possible. Okay, so let's just... I'm going to play it a little bit more jazzy. This is what he plays, right? Hang on. Listen to it. Ba da ba da ba da ba da ba da ba da ba 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 ba. Yeah, so he's bending up to E flat, but it's really just, you know, bend the note fucking far and make it sound bluesy. So, but that phrase. Well, what have we got to here? F sharp and A. What chord has just hit? Is it a D chord? So we went from this for our E. It's almost like we're playing. Nonsense. So he's hitting those chord changes there. I don't care how much you like him or how much you don't like him. He's hitting those chord changes there. Minor pentatonic. Now this phrase here, this is kind of back in the day what I'd always refer to as Dorian blues from the Paul Gilbert School of Thought. So that kind of Dorian blues thing, which I can't do very well anymore. But where does he end it? Well, ends on that third of the chord, right? So all of that Dorian blues hitting the sound of the chord, giving the chord respect. Actually, a slight anecdote on this one. If you go back and watch, it's often people often incorrectly, and I can tell you why, incorrectly tell you that blues is something you feel. Blues guys didn't know what they were doing; they just played, you know, and they're just, it's a feeling. There's no knowledge; it's just a feeling. If you go and watch the BB King instructional video, and there is one, he doesn't really teach on it. He's kind of interviewed by a guy. He I vividly remember him talking on that, where he talks about, he's asked, like, why did you play that note there? and he said, because that's where the chord changes, and that's the third of the chord. BB King, somebody we don't think of as being, you know, a theory guy, but demonstrating, you know, a lot more theory application than many kind of metal guys would on things like that. I know that sounds ridiculous, but watching BB King talk about, you think of like limited phrase vocabulary, BB King. Pointing out that when you're playing over this, when the chord changes to D, so BB King point and stuff like that was an eye-opener for me. Great blues phrase. Should be able to identify it, right? Immediately. Can I steal it? Yes. Let's see if he hits the chord here, right? So we know one chord, A. So we're on the 4 chord there, right? Now he did the exact same thing that he did on the first time round. And our ears should be good enough to spot it, right? So we were playing A, and then when that 4 chord landed, he's kind of playing at the A blues scale, sticking to the A blues scale over that, because that kind of gives you a lot of the notes of that D dominant 7. So yeah, it's a way to get through it, right? And from a blues perspective, if I want to try and outline those chord changes, if I'm playing A Blues in A. 3, 4. Nonsense. Yeah. So that gets him through. So there we go. Classic phrase. Just being able to hit that on any chord, so when your E chord lands. Fun nonsense. Classic phrase. You know, show me Malmsteen playing that on a metal song. You know, it's. What is it? Well, we're playing the fifth and the third of the A chord, and we're walking it up chromatically until we get to the flat 7 and the fifth of the chord. So over our A chord, I love those 6, like coming from that country background. So, yeah, sounds authentic to me. That's that Dorian blues thing. And of course, you know, the longer you play and the more you transcribe, the more you hear things like that and you don't hesitate. Mince for the sake of mince. Plays that same phrase again. plays that phrase, right? Again, find me him playing that on Far Beyond the Sun. It's just not there. Why? He's playing blues here, not playing blues on Far Beyond the Sun. Does it again there. Stop with that. Don't do that. Now there he's going a little Phrygian dominant, right? Diminish arpeggio. But it's not right. From a theory perspective, you want to be a semitone lower than that. If you want to do that. So it's not really Phrygian dominant. I feel that's what he was going for. Minor pentatonic. Woo! I mean, that phrase there. Just phrases like that. It's it's fast. It's absolutely fast, right? But when we look at it, it's very much a style, isn't it? It's a type of blues, isn't it? It's wrong camera. It's limited. It's limited, but I think that for anyone that loves the blues, and like I say, I firmly put myself in that category. If there's no blues in what I'm listening to, I'm just not interested in it. But for anyone that loves the blues, I think we all acknowledge that it's a limited pool of vocabulary style of music, yeah? So when you put on a Book of White recording, an old Book of White recording, you don't expect to, if a new record comes out, you don't expect to go, I've got to check out the new record to see what new ideas Book of White's coming up with. It wasn't the point, Sun House, it wasn't the point. When guys like that were doing their thing, it wasn't the point. Same with Elmore James, as the sound develops a little bit in Muddy Waters territory. And to be honest, that's why I've always lent a little bit more towards the Chicago blues sound, more so than Southern blues sounds, or I guess kind of like New Orleans influences as well. But point is, I like it when a lot more jazz comes into things because the vocabulary tends to be a lot wider, but the style is birthed out of limited vocabulary. Limited vocabulary. And Malmsteen here has limited vocabulary. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, you want to learn to play blues, you go and learn Malmsteen vocabulary. That would be ridiculous. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Malmsteen is a blues guitar player. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Malmsteen's a good blues guitar player. But I'm going to sit here and tell you and happily say, right here, he's playing blues. You know, he really is playing blues. He's playing traditional blues vocabulary with way too much overdrive and way too much passion and flair. But if you go on YouTube and look for Gary Moore back in the day, like, Gary Moore played really fucking fast. Really fast. And the thing I think that's fascinating about this, and the reason I can say blues is kind of my driving force, and if I can't hear it in music, is because blues is one of those influences that has absolutely got its DNA in so much of the music that we listen to, that you don't even need to play blues anymore, like traditional blues. You don't even play over 12-bar blues chord progressions at blues jam nights for something to be bluesy. And I don't mean like, oh, I don't really know how to describe that, therefore I'm going to call it blues. When I use that term, I'm talking about this stuff. I'm talking about this type of vocabulary. So, like, you hear... Oh, fucking picking the guitar again, aren't I? You hear Slash on Guns N' Slash isn't a blues player, per se. He's a bluesy player, though. Because you hear him play phrases like... That comes from that blues territory. He can milk those phrases out of the instrument. And yeah, he's not a blues player, but he's got blues in him. And I think that to look at Malmsteen and say that he doesn't have blues in him, or isn't able to do an impression of somebody like that, well, then I think you have to turn to any student of the instrument, anybody who's been playing for a year or so or whatever, and say, I'm really sorry, but you can't play blues because you don't sound good enough yet. Malmsteen doesn't sound good enough that he should be putting out blues records, right? But he enjoys it, and I think that's just so important. He's really enjoying himself. He's having a great time playing. Anytime you see him play blues, he's always having just such a great time playing. I'm going to post a link to Transcribe, the software. There you go, Roy. Right. The vocabulary is not limited at all. It is vast, yet it's all inside the narrow constraints. Well, I'll expand upon that a little bit. What I mean when I say limited, because I think it's important that we understand that, right? So, fucking cable. Okay. One of my favourite things to do with students is to take one musical idea, one piece of vocabulary, right? And I'm going to play it 3 times. So it's going to be, okay, from a jazz blues perspective, this is standard. You hear this all the time. Okay. And then the goal would be to have a pulse, a click. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I played a lot of stuff there, yeah? A lot of stuff. But to me, it was one piece of vocabulary. And my ability to take one musical idea... played more stuff. I think that's to me the really important thing. When I talk about vocabulary being limited, and you talk about that inside of narrow constraints, when you hear a blues player take, and I mean when I say a blues player, I'm talking like old pre-British blues explosion, right? Pre-explosion, taking say 2 notes like this. And just going ham on just those 2 notes, right? So yeah. So that's me playing tons and tons of musical vocabulary from one piece of one piece of information. So you can take just those 2 notes and you can get tons and tons and tons of mileage out of it. And actually for me, when I learned that, you know, that was cool. But then it was Jake Wilson, actually, when I was hanging out with Jake Wilson one time, years and years ago, but I don't know, 10 years ago, I remember seeing him do that, and then he went... Now that's it, you hear players doing that sort of thing. You don't hear B.B. King doing that sort of thing, and that's all of these things there. It was one piece of vocabulary, and then I introduced like an additional idea in there. And depending on the player, they have their pool of ideas that they play from within. And let me be clear when I say this, and you see the comment about limit is not a correct word, not rich, which in a sense is limited being used. We're all limited. We all have a limited vocabulary in the grand scheme of things, right? Most of us have a finite resource of vocabulary. And when -7#5 talks about like listen to some great jazz blues player like Benson, for example, you don't feel that their vocabulary is limited. I mean, it's all relative, isn't it? Like Benson plays jazz blues, and therefore it's expected that the vocabulary will be a lot wider. You're playing over a wider harmonic palette. You're playing over more chord changes, so you have to have more vocabulary. But at its core, you hear a lot of repetition of ideas, right? So there's one phrase actually that I took from Benson, and just a 4-note phrase, but he was the first person I really picked up doing this. He loves this motif. Sorry, it doesn't like that. Probably doesn't like that. He uses that in his lines. So it's like him using that in the middle of his lines. Each time he does it, it jumps out to me as being like a motif that he's fond of, because you don't hear. I don't think I could be wrong on this, right? But I think if you trawl through every Peter Green recording that exists, you won't hear him playing, because it's not a unique to Benson phrase. Don't get me wrong, but Benson played it a lot as in his phrases, and yeah, it's all relative. So the more jazz you bring into your playing, or the more country you bring in, your vocabulary is going to get wider. But when you transcribe enough of this stuff, and actually you're a really good example of this, -7#5, because you've done so many Gambale transcriptions, right? You see him playing the same things, right? The same tricks that he has. Like we know that he likes to do things like those pentatonic suites where he'll go, and then when he's done with those, he'll come down and go. What What's that phrase he does? Oh, this is embarrassing. I should put more time into the example before playing it. You know what I mean, though? He has the way he descends down a 5-string pattern in fourth. Is it? I'm making a tit out of myself here. But you know what I mean, like he has that way that he descends down that pattern, and then he'll shift up here, and he's got a way that he likes to ascend up, and then he'll shift up the neck, and he does it not on every track, but you know, you could have a tally list of how many times that basic idea comes up. You might modify it a little bit, but he has a pool of things that he likes to draw from. It's not just constant improvisation, because here's the tea, Mary. Constant improvisation is a myth, and it isn't something that you should seek. You don't want it. Because if you constantly improvise everything, if you constantly are playing things that people have never heard before, they can't latch onto what you're saying. They can't latch onto what you're playing. And that's why I love the blues so much, right? Because it doesn't matter how far beyond it you go in terms of like your influences. You go really down a jazz route. If you go so far down that jazz route that you get into modern jazz, guys like Kurt Rosenwinkel. I'm not a fan of Kurt Rosenwinkel or Alan Holdsworth. Was never a fan of Alan Holdsworth. And it's because when I listen to those guys, the blues has been taken out so much. I want to hear somebody play when they're doing jazz lines. I want to hear if I'm playing on a like blues. I actually want to hear those as well. The Charlie Parkerisms, I want to hear those sorts of things in there. I want those hints at the traditional blues thing, rather than somebody that's like going, we could take all of these notes, they're going to be in an A7 chord, right? You don't want people playing... Everything I played there was diatonic. It fit over an A7 chord. But because I didn't play anything that you could relate to, anything that you understood, I've just remembered the Frank sweep. It's this, isn't it? I don't do that stuff. Anyway, point was, all of those... This is improvisation in the truest sense, right? All fits over an A7, right? But it doesn't. You need something that you can relate to. So I hear that. Now that phrase in the end is something you can relate to. So when you have something. Those phrases, these are things you relate to, so you understand these. Whereas Steve Vai, I saw the comment there, I don't really think Steve can play blues That's actually a really great question, because it comes back to the crux of what we're talking about here, right? I don't think he plays blues anywhere near as authentically as Malmsteen, but I don't think Malmsteen plays blues anywhere near as authentically as Josh Smith or Danny Gatton, so cool. Right, guys, I've been streaming for much longer than I wanted to, and to be honest, this was supposed to be a transcription stream, but I've transcribed 4 bars of music, and I've mostly just been talking and playing guitar. But thank you so much for tuning into this, and I really do hope you've had a good time. I want to be doing a stream like this every couple of weeks now, rather than just one at the end of the month. Ideally focusing a little bit more on the actual transcribing side of things, but fielding questions and just developing. What I'm doing here is, this is practice for me, right? I'm trying to become a better player. I'm trying to become less of a judgmental asshole and more of a learner. I want to hear people play things, and when I'm playing now and I'm improvising, I want to hear phrases that I enjoy. And Malmsteen played a couple of things here that, I've heard them all before, but things like I want those phrases to come up when I'm playing blues. Yeah, so I would like to do a bunch more of those. In my playing, there is no blues. Yeah, so that's entirely possible. There are players that you just don't hear any blues in their playing, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just a case of whether or not it speaks to you. I know guys that are absolutely nutty for guys like Kurt Rosenwinkel or I was going to say Adam Rogers, but that's probably an unfair one, because he's sometimes he's got some stuff in his vocabulary that's kind of really cool. But it's Tim Miller then. Let's say Tim Miller, great player, but doesn't have as much blues in his playing as I want it to, and that's not a bad thing, because he's got loads of fans that absolutely love what he's doing, and I respect what he's doing, but it's just not going to be what I'm going to choose to put on. I'm going to put on old Grant Green recordings, still bluesy. There's definitely an element of blues in there, but it doesn't go so down the jazz route. I remember one time I talked to Levi on Skype, and he said, "There's zero blues in your playing." I have met people that with zero blues in their playing. It does happen. It does happen. People that they're just not interested in blues, and actually you hear it more and more. So the last video I put up was the Ichika Naito transcription. There's no blues in his playing whatsoever. And I kind of tease and make fun of guys like Tosin Labassi. There's just no blues in his playing. Doesn't make it wrong, just makes it much harder for me to relate to. What I couldn't get on board with, Ewan, if you're still there, reading your comments, is when I listen to this, come on, I can hear that there's blues here. It's absolutely blues. Might not be for me. But it's blues, and to push people out of a community and say you're not welcome here because you're not part of the club, I don't think it's good for the blues community as a whole, or the music community as a whole. It should be as welcoming as possible to everybody, because you know what, there was a time where I didn't like blues. I mean proper blues. You would never catch me dead listening to a B.B. King record. It was boring, wasn't into it, right? My only understanding of the blues was what Paul Gilbert would do when he used to play a blues. Now I listen to that, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, no, it's not as cool as I thought it was. But it was my gateway, and it took me a long time of traveling the path to find myself where I'm at now. And if I was dissuaded from that by elitists and purists who were saying, yeah, but that's not blues. Sorry that you like it, but that's not blues. So you don't actually like the blues. I just don't think that's what you want to do. I think we want a bigger community of musicians, and the best way to do that is to encourage them and welcome them. So, yeah, when somebody comes to me and they say, "Oh, my favorite blues player is John Frusciante," I'm going to be like, "Cool, let's look at some of what he's doing, and then let's look at some of his influences, and let's talk about, how you can hear some Hendrix ideas in some of his playing. Let's talk about Hendrix, and then when we're talking about Hendrix, let's use that as an opportunity to talk about Albert King, Of the Three Kings, it's funny. I listened to so much BB King when I was younger that I'm kind of, I don't want to say over it, but yeah, I lean more towards Albert King, and then I've got to say Albert was my favourite, but actually Freddie King's a great player, really great player. So yeah, the Three Kings, right? Yeah, I just don't want to push people away from blues. If this Malmsteen recording was the first thing that you'd heard that somebody called blues, and it encourages you to go out and learn more about the style, the sound, and you discover, let's say after Malmsteen, you discovered Joe Bonamassa, all right? From a blues purist perspective, you're not going to go, oh, well, Joe Bonamassa is the pinnacle of what blues is and should be. I don't think it's the case, but he's a better example than Malmsteen. And from listening to Joe, you might hear him talk about some of his influences. You might hear him mention Danny Gatton. He mentions Danny Gatton all the time. And, you know, Danny's like one of my all-time favourite players. You can see my Telecaster behind me here. It's got the Gatton Dingus mounting plate on it. I love Danny Gatton. And then, you know, from Danny, you might go, it's just, you know what I mean? Like, you follow the roots to the tree and the tree of knowledge, the tree of life, and don't put people off. Don't be that guy. So, right, I'm just going to run my credits. So as always, this stream is brought to you by my wonderful supporters over on Patreon. If you want to be like those awesome people, you can support the channel for as little as $1. Who doesn't want to support 2-hour streams like this for $1? It's worth it. You know it's totally worth it. So go on over to Patreon, check me out, give me $1. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine. You can head on over to Amazon, check out one of my books, my bestsellers, my Amazon bestsellers. I have blues books there. You can see Delta Blues Slide Guitar. Fun fact, that's my best-selling book. That book still sells gangbusters, and I'm incredibly humbled by that. I'm incredibly happy that I managed to write a book on Delta Blues slide guitar, authentic Delta stuff. There's no electric instruments on that. That is all recorded with a resonator guitar and an old acoustic guitar with a microphone in front of it. I want it to be as authentic as possible. So if you want to go down that Delta Blues slide route, go and do some of that stuff. It's great fun. And if you don't want to support the channel at all, that's fine. Hit the subscribe button, tell your friends, tell your enemies, all that good stuff. Read these last comments. Oh yeah, Discord, that's a good thing. Yeah, but here's the whole Horwellston. Here's exactly the point. The reason I made this video is because I was really irked by some comments I saw by someone in particular who was in the chat tonight on Facebook about this video in particular, and really kind of shitting on somebody else for enjoying it, you know. And I can't get on board with that. Be more loving, be more supportive. Make the world a better place, not a worse place. Fill it with good thoughts and sharing of information and education. I hope you guys have had a good night tonight where you've been able to think about some things. Maybe you've learned some stuff. Maybe you've had a good time. And if you have, then I've done my job. So much love, and I'll see you for another stream soon. Goodbye.